Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. I'm Robbie.
I'm Jason.
And welcome to the table. So excited to have you guys here. And welcome back. Episode 53. Took a little bit, an extra week. Yep. But we're back, guys.
Yeah.
We're back. We said we were being consistent, and we're back.
Yep. That's the plan. Yeah, but it's good. Like the pause was good for both of us, for sure. Yeah. You know, life is happening, as crazy stuff's going on. And it worked out good just because I was worried. Okay, well, I got to be gone next week, and we do this, and we already have our plans for the next few ones. So no, it's right on time.
Absolutely. I was even thinking about this, Jason. Is that normally on the fives we do an interview. So we got to think about guests.
Yeah, that's true.
Because that's right around the corner as well. That's a month away in terms of shooting. When we were just talking about other things in life, they're a month away.
That is true.
But Jason, how are you doing today for the people?
I'm doing well, man. Life is good for those who are in the Virginia area. Like, I don't know if we even told you this, but like last night was the first time in 17 days that we actually stayed above freezing for 24 hours. We had 17 days where we were below freezing at some point. And we had, I think, like 10 or 11 days where it didn't get above freezing. It was wild, or something insane. It was so crazy. So we had this wild snow ice storm weeks and weeks ago. That's why, for those who watch Foundation, all the guys' video still has snow, even though it hasn't snowed in weeks, because it's just not melting. But all the streets now are just a river of water because everything is melting because it got up to the 60s today and upper 50s yesterday. So there's just water everywhere because everything's melting. So we're all very happy about that.
Yeah. And everyone's lawns are suddenly upon seeing the touch of the sun are just going to be like, get away. Yeah. It's going to be tough out there.
How you doing, man?
Hey, doing great. I'll sort of transition us into our section where we do games that we've been playing lately, and give a spoiler alert that because I started a new job, I've not been playing a ton of games lately. Even normally I would slot in that I played Lorcana here or there. I haven't even played like a digital game of Lorcana since I started my new job 3 weeks ago because it is just... It's a grind of adjusting and learning. I'm in the accounting space. I am not an accountant, so I am having to learn a lot about accounting so that I can sell accounting to other people and small businesses and things like that. So it's been a learning curve, but also little guy is still hanging in there. So it's been fun. But normally in this section we do things, games we played lately or things we've watched. So I did want to. I got the chance to watch something. And had a fun story for it. So my wife and I were, last weekend, we actually had the opportunity. My parents called and were like, hey, we want to see our grandkid. We're coming to take him for the weekend. So any young parents know what it's like. You're kid free. And we're like, we're doing crazy stuff. Here we go. So we went and got dinner one night, brought it back to the house, and we're going to watch a movie. And I have this knack for picking funny, like with comedies, I can somehow sort through the comedies that maybe weren't big stream, super successful, but the low indie ones, I'm like pretty good at sorting through the funny ones and which ones are like, no, it didn't get big because it's actually just bad. So Lindsay and I put together two options. She wanted to watch Eternity. Are you familiar with that movie with Elizabeth Olsen? She basically, her husband dies, and then she gets remarried, and then she and her husband then die. So she goes to eternity, and who does she want to spend eternity with?
Interesting concept. I mean, that's very intriguing,
right. Very intriguing. Apparently, it's hilarious. It did really well, and we were like, okay, that's an option. And I was like, or Lindsay, Jack Black's kind of funny sometimes. I like Paul Rudd, and Anaconda just hit hit streaming.
Yeah.
So what if we did Anaconda? And she was like, I love you, and I will lean into it with you. And Jason, let me tell you, there's a line. It may be the fifth line of the film. And Jack Black drops this line, and I turn and I look at Lindsay, and I was like, I've made a mistake. We should not have picked this movie. This is going to be bad. And she was like, it's too late now. We're already in it.
We're already there.
And so we wrote it out, and it was horrible. It was not good. I like could stretch to give it a 6 out of 10, but yeah, it was tough out there. So wish I'd been playing some games, but indeed had just been watching subpar film.
That's funny. Like the premise of Anaconda, as a fan of those actors, is very intriguing. So that for those who don't know, the premise is that a group of adults who used to make movies as kids want to go make another movie, right? And they want to remake one of their all-time favorite movies. Now, side note, I was listening to Paul Rudd on Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend. He's like, but if you do the math, we were like 40 when that movie came out, not teenagers. Like all the actors in there weren't teenagers when Anaconda actually came out. His jokes anyway. And so they go do it. And so the premise of that actually, for being a fan of those, Steve Zahn, Paul, Jack, sounds great if they don't go too absurd.
Yeah.
I went and read some, because Liz and I, since we had the Regal Movie Pass, it was a gift from our family. We're like, we can go see it. It's a free movie to us because we have Regal Movie Pass.
Yeah.
And I read the reviews. I'm like, I'm not going to, Liz was like, I'll go see it. And as soon as I read the review, I'm like, we're not seeing this movie because it looks really bad. Like, even the reviews are bad. So
it was tough.
That's tough. We went and, we'll come back to ours. I don't know if I told you this, but Elizabeth, I've learned, and I've been married to her for a long time, but like, give me like a time break. She likes post-apocalyptic movies. Okay. Like things that have disaster movies. Maybe not post-apocalyptic. Disaster movies is a better statement.
Okay, yeah.
And so we watched Greenland over the holidays after we got Regal Pass. And Greenland, my microphone's slowly sliding down, is basically where an asteroid's coming to Earth. It's Gerard Butler, Morena Baccarin. Asteroids come to Earth, they're trying to survive. That's all you need to know, right? Yeah. The movie's insane. There's unbelievable stuff, but it's a big action or disaster movie. Okay, it happens. They do Greenland 2. And I was like, okay, we'll go see it. And Liz was like a few minutes in, like, this is not a good movie. I was like, this is a really bad movie. Like, this is really, really bad. Even she was like, yeah, I can't even. I'm like, I agree. I'm okay with suspending belief in some of the stuff, but when everything is crazy, it's wild.
Yeah.
And we went and saw
to have some touch of reality in my movie.
And we went and saw Mercy a couple days ago, which is a new Chris Pratt one about some kind of Minority Report-ish. And when I saw the trailer, I'm like, I don't want to go see that at all. But Liz wanted to, but because I'm not paying for it, I'm like, okay, we'll go see it.
I'll go see some subpar films.
Yeah. Because we even said if it's a really bad movie, we can always walk out. Mercy was just fine. Got off the rails a little bit at the end, but the principle, like, it's very paint by numbers. You kind of know what's going to happen, but you just want to see how it's going to happen. Yeah. It diverges a little bit. But I feel for you, man. You know, you got to take those bullets sometimes, and you learned, and you took your shot and you missed, unfortunately, with that one.
Yeah.
So.
And Lindsay just the whole time, like, we should have been watching Eternity. Should have been watching Eternity. And I was like, unfortunately, you are correct here.
But you have a story for now. Like, you love having stories. Right. It's always good to have a really good story, and now you got one in your pocket to pull out when you talk about movies or Jack Black or anything else. So
yeah. But Jason, what games have you been playing lately, man? Because you've not been just watching bad movies.
No, not just bad movies. We are actually in the middle of Fantastic February. Elizabeth, as of last night, is up 6-4 on me. She won the first 3, and then we went back and forth, and I won 2 in a row. In full disclosure, like 2 of the games, I was kind of whiny because I'm like, I'm going to lose this game. Calico. So we played I had to tell the story. We played Calico, and this is not one of the games I'm talking about. And Calico, for those who remember us talking about it, it's basically a tile. You're going to play a tile, draft a tile. I kid you not, of 22 tiles, 2-player game, 22 options to take tiles. This is a true statement. 20 times, I counted it, Elizabeth took the tile I wanted. 20 times. So I apologized to her later, by the way. Spoiler, I won the game. But I was like, but I wasn't paying attention to her board. I just know she kept taking what I wanted, and she kept taking what I wanted, and I was the thing I hate other people doing, and I was 100% that, and I apologized to her later for it, right? Because like, not her fault. She was doing nothing wrong. She was not hate drafting. But I promise you, 20 of the 22 times, thankfully, a tile came out perfect. A green tile came out, gave me an extra button, which gave me the bonus of the extra button. If you get all 6 colored buttons, you get a bonus button. And I won by literally that bonus button. That was the difference in the game. Was a tile, even though she kept taking the tile I wanted, a green tile came out at if she'd had that green, if it had come out one turn earlier, she wins the game the same way, right? Anyway, I'll go off that. So, I won that game, and I thought I was going to lose, and I forgot some other game we tied, and then I won as well. I was like, I'm going to lose because Liz was definitely killing me.
Yeah. And a reminder for those of you who Fantastic February, you started this tradition over a decade at this point, right?
Yep. The very first year we called it Funtastic February and didn't keep score, but it's 10 years now, 10 years, 11 years, something like that. Yeah, and we
play a board game every single
night. Yep, it's fun. So this will be our third time as me and Elizabeth doing 1v1. Tell you what's funny, Hannah, Will, and their roommate are doing Fantastic February as well. Hannah was excited to tell us that they're doing Fantastic February because they have one of her best friends from college, and one of her roommates from college lives with them now in their apartment. And so Will, Hannah, and Lauren are playing Fantastic February, and Hannah's winning, unsurprisingly. I mean, she's a good gamer, and she's got her mom's blood in her that she's not going to go light. We go on. Okay, we're getting off track here because she taught a few weeks ago. She taught Flamecraft to her friends and blitzed everybody, like blitzed them by an insane amount. I was like, Hannah, you got to be. She goes, I wanted to win the game. I'm like, you are your mother's daughter because when we have friends over to play new games, Elizabeth doesn't care. Like I won't tank games with new players by any stretch because that's not fair to them. Yeah, but I may try a new strategy. Right. Yeah. Elizabeth's out for blood. It doesn't matter. And she's going to go for it. Speaking of playing with friends, we had a game night the other night, and it was Marissa and Dakota, who we played with a ton, and then a new set of one of Elizabeth's coworkers, Ananda, and her husband, Hunter. So we've done 2 6-player game nights, which is great, and we've done a ton of game nights with each of them individually. So one of the games we played was a game called Ito. Super light kind of party game I've had for a while. The gist of Ito is there's cards numbered 1 through 99, and you're given a topic, and everyone's given a number privately. So randomly, I could have number 6, you could have 24, Elizabeth have 44. And there's a topic given, like, things that you like to eat, or things that are good to eat. And you give an answer to what that is. So your goal is the higher your number, you want it to be the things that are better to eat, and the lower your number, the things you're less good to eat. So maybe if I have number 3, I'm like, crunchy glass mixed with molasses and oil would be mine. You don't see my number, and so I slide it out there. And then Elizabeth may say, if she's like 34, maybe like, okay, well, some, day old chicken. Chicken's fine a day old, but it's a little dry, right? And you can kind of describe it that way. And so the goal of your game is basically for everybody to give a topic or not a topic, an answer to what that is based on their number, and arrange that out on the board. And so and then is everybody good with this? And then you start discussing, well, actually, and Dakota was here, and Dakota is like Josh. He loves going deep. And like one of his was a mansion on the beach. And then someone else said something else. He goes, well, no, my mansion on the beach is by a bank that gives you free money. And then because you can change it, the rules allow you to change it because if you think your number is higher. And so we played that. The first 2 or 3 times we got it, but it was wild because the first time I think we had like number 92, 97, and 99. Like out of 100 ones, our first time to play, and so that's why they just kept going back and forth on amping, raising up the value. And then like Hunter's like, heaven and earth, and he's like the new heaven and earth, right? Trying to get to the high number for us believers, to try to put there. So you would love this game. The Foundation guys would love this game for sure. Yeah. If you're not super creative, it could be challenging. But you can just sit back and have fun watching people. Because Elizabeth struggled with it a little bit, because the idea of it is sparking debate. Because Dakota's like, well, is that closest to Disney World? Because she said something like living close to Disney World. He goes, well, is that like 1 mile away or 20 miles away? Do you got to pay a toll to get to Disney World? So you start peeling out the onion. So people who love the social aspect of games would love Ito. Super light. We'd owned it for a while, and I knew it would work well, and they loved it. Like I was actually done by the end because it was our last game of that. We played it 6 or 7 times. I was like, all right, guys, one more time. And they were loving it, but that's not me. Like I can sometimes roll with those punches. And sometimes not, right? And the first few ones I was with it, I'm like, okay, I can only go so far with having this circle larger. But they are embracing the fun of that, which is what makes that game fun. Because you're like chicken wings. Well, chicken wings are like, super spicy, so they're okay. Or like you could pick anything and go as deep, and you can literally change your clue or change your answer once you hear somebody else's. You could talk about, okay, a free bank that gives money. All right, well, actually, I own every free bank in the world, and they all give only me money and whatever, right? So you can kind of just move from there. So I think you would like Edo. It's pretty fun, and Dakota's like, oh, it's an instant buy for him because it's a perfect party game.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that idea of it. It very gives me. It sounds like very Sheriff of Nottingham vibes in terms of if the right person is there trying to sell it, could really take that game to the next level. Whereas if you put it at the wrong table, like that is going to struggle or something.
Yeah.
But I definitely think I could be with you on. I could be one of the people that's selling it. Like, okay, so you said mansion on the beach, but like my mansion has like every single beach chair also. Like memory foam, but not memory foam that makes you hot. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
that's it. That's if the fun of that game comes from the stories you tell about your clue. Yeah. And so, like, say, like Dakota loved it. The Foundation. I mean, Hunter, Trevor, they would all love that stuff. They would go crazy with that stuff. So, and like I can just sit back and watch them because depends on what it is. Like, it's also if you get a low number, it is what it is. But if you start getting the 30s or 40s or 50s, and then it sparks arguments as well. I'm like, but. How would you put poor Marissa, one of those, we all agreed that she did it wrong. Like, her clue was this, and we saw the number, like that number was not that number. Like her number was like 30 something, but she gave a clue that's more like a 50 or 60 something, right? Is the best way to describe that. I was like, you're not wrong, Marissa, but we all thought it was higher than that. Cause it's
like it's French fries and like a Wendy's French fry. I'm not touching a Wendy's French fry with a 10-foot pole in that game because I'm team like they're not that good.
Right.
And there's loyalists out there who are like, I love a floppy French fry. So that's
exactly.
That is super exciting.
So Ito's fun. The other game, I'll try to go quicker, is Expeditions. I've talked about it as a game I played recently. It's the sequel to Scythe. So folks who've played Scythe know the theme. The gist of Expeditions is you're moving a mech around the board, and on your turn, you're moving a cube between three spots. And you're covering this move, play, or gather. Move your mech to a spot, play a card from your hand, or gather, which is basically take the action on the tile you go to. So that mechanism of moving around is just really cool. You can take a refresh action once, in which on your next turn you take all three actions. You can do them whatever you want, but I truly love this way you're moving around the board. Okay, this time I can move and play, but I can't. You have to change it every time. And so if I really want to gather and play a card twice in a row, you can't unless you refresh. And so it's one that I think it's the other one that we tied, and I had more coins may have been the answer. I can't remember which one it was, but one of those that Elizabeth and I tied on. But Expeditions is great. It plays at 5. I would never in a million years play it at 5 unless everybody agreed to play every turn in a minute, because you can go to so many spots. You can think through so many things. And Elizabeth and I had a very good, productive discussion. No, she beat me in that game. And she's like, well, I wasn't taking as long as you think. I was like, I think you were. I said, but you won the game. So like part of your fun is mathing out the best way to do that. And do it, have fun with it, embrace it, And so I gotta remember like, okay, I like going fast, but other people have fun going slower. And so I have to embrace, okay, some people are going to go a little slower than I want them to. But even the reviewers of Expedition say like, never play this above 3, because because you can move so many spots and you're thinking through, if I go there, I can do this. But I can do this. It is very cool because the other unique thing about this, you play your hand of cards is face up. You're like, traditionally your hand of cards you're managing to be like behind here, but it's face up, and your played cards are to the right of your player mat, and they go in a row for a specific reason because the way the game goes. And then you can also, when you play a card, you get this, but if you have a meeple, you can activate this, which may let you do this, which may let you do this, which may let you do this. Like, it's super combo-tastic. Expedition is one that we had hoped to get to play with you at some point, because I think you would like it, because it is super crunchy and super thinky, because you're thinking your way around the board.
Yeah.
Super, and cool art. I have the metal mechs in it, which are the first rendition of it came out with metal mechs. So Expeditions is, because it's a hand management game and a move game as well. It's the best way to like a worker movement game, because you're moving your meeple around and taking the actions there. Scythe is same, like you're moving your mechs around and taking actions on the board. So Expeditions it's one that we probably, because as we get together and able to play, we have less options. Expeditions one we probably won't cover, but it's one that if you ever get a chance to play, it's really fun.
Yeah. No, I think that the Scythe universe is just very much one that I think could be continued to be explored. And people like it's just there's going to be winners inside of that over and over again. It's too good of a. I don't even know that I want to call it an IP. Would you call it an IP?
It's tough. It's kind of a right. It's not purely an IP, not in the traditional sense, but it is the world of Scythe. Jacob, I forget the last name's art. Jacob, I forget his last name. Jacob, somebody's art is the world of Scythe. And Jamie was inspired to make that game from seeing the art. He was already tinkering around with the mechanisms of Scythe, but when he saw the art, he was inspired to do this kind of relatively post-apocalyptic, where it's kind of steampunk-ish in that you have mechs doing stuff, but you're also out in the field farming. So, and the art is very striking. You either like the art or hate the art. So, and most people like the art, but a lot don't. So, Expeditions is definitely a fun game. I need a digital implementation of that. I need that on BGA all day because I would play it on BGA a ton if I had it there because I just like the game so much.
Yeah. Now, speaking of games that you would definitely like to play a ton, today's game is the successful is the wrong word because I would say there are probably more games that we've discussed already that have sold way more copies than maybe Dune Imperium has. But in terms of beloved following in the board game community, I would say Board Game Geek if you're someone who's invested into Board Game Geek, that means you are deep into the hobby. Like if you are actively going and voting and doing the thing, you are above a casual, I go to game nights that my friends host and we play some of these games. If you're involved there, and so I would say for the board gamer, this is our highest rated in BGG that we've ever discussed. So Jason, you want to tell them a little bit about today's game?
Absolutely. It's also our second heaviest game based on BGG. BGG has a weighted scale on a 1 to 5 point scale. And I went to double check. I knew it was going to be high, but technically Terraforming Mars, which our previously highest rated game that we've talked about, and it's slightly more. It's weighted as a more challenging game with regards to its complexity. So, but it's up there. Excuse me. Released in 2020. So a little over 6 years ago, number 5 on BGG's top 100, and there's over 100,000 games on BGG, right? So being number 5 says quite a bit. Designed by Paul Dennen, who also designed Clank, which will make sense because when we talk about how the game plays, aspects of, if you've ever played Clank, when you play Dune Imperium, you'll be like, oh, I totally get this. I see this all the way. You see the inspiration. Published by Direwolf Games. 1 to 4 players. Playtime listed on the box is 60 to 120 minutes. In Dune Imperium, you play as a leader of one of the great houses of the Lanzarod, working to raise your banner, marshal your forces and spies. War is coming, and at the center of the conflict is Dune, the desert planet. In Dune, you start with a unique leader card, as well as a deck identical to those of your opponents. Many deck builders do this exact same thing. As you acquire cards and build your deck, your choices will define your strengths and weaknesses. Cards allow you to send your agents, a la your workers, to certain spaces on the game board, so how your deck evolves affects your strategy. Unlike many deck building games, you don't play your entire hand in one turn. Instead, you draw a hand of cards at the start of every round and alternate with other players, taking one agent turn at a time, a la playing one card to send one of your agents to the game board. When it's your turn and you have no more agents to place, you'll take a reveal turn, revealing the rest of your cards, which provide persuasion and swords, the ability to buy more cards and take place in combat if you've chosen to do combat. After you reveal your cards, defeat your rivals in combat, shrewdly navigate the political factions, and acquire precious cards. The spice must flow to lead your house to victory. That wasn't ChatGPT. That was the description from BGG for the most part. That sounded very ChatGPT-ish. Who knows? They may have used it on there, but this description was written years ago. But that's the overall high level of how Dune goes. We'll definitely talk a lot more specifics because there's too much in how to play the game to do a quick overview. And so as we talk today, we'll talk a little bit more about the actual gameplay.
Yeah. Goal, I would say, starting with like the goal of the game. The goal of the game is you acquire points, and you get those points through a multitude of different things, whether it is growing your allegiance to certain family alliances and factions that exist out there in the world. And as you take certain character actions That's going to gain you those alliances, and that's going to get you certain points. But also you can gain points in combat, and then you also can gain points in just the deck building aspect of cards that are just straight up points. So the first person to reach 10 points signals the end of the game. When someone has 10 points, you're in the final round. So definitely interesting in that aspect. I love a game where you can track something like that, where it is, okay, I can do my thing, and then I suddenly realize, oh, we're in the final throes of it because I can see that Elizabeth is going to get 3 points this turn. I need to start making some moves, or else I'm just going to get left behind. Including even the one game we played, it came down to all 4 of us had a shot at winning the game, and it really was like one person's going to signal the end of this, and they're just going to like, do you have extra? And then we all started pivoting to, okay, what if we just let them take that and push us to the end game, and we start trying to gather points elsewhere? So very, very fun in that aspect. In terms of setup and teach, the setup for this, I would say for saying that this is the second densest board game we've discussed, the setup doesn't feel that intense for a game that is as decision heavy as it is. Is that fair?
Yeah, definitely fair, especially if you've organized your stuff appropriately in your box, right? What I've learned over years, and you've played enough for me to see, I pull stuff out and it's pretty organized because each player will have Robbie talked about alliances with different factions. There's basically a board. There's one part of the board is pushing a cube up a track. So every player has 4 of these cubes. Every player has 20 cubes that act as their army. Every player has 3 workers that are their agents. You start with 2 and you can get a third one. So you have a ton of things, but if you organize your box ready, here's your bag, here's your bag, here's your bag. Very easy. And then there's spice, which is basically little wood pieces that are orange. There's water, which are little teardrops, and then there's solari, which is the money in the game. They're already separated in the box. And then if you've organized the cards, everybody gets the same 10 cards to start the game. If you already organized those, it's pretty easy. So actually, it's a lot, but if you've prepped it in your box, it's actually pretty easy. I mean, really, if there's one thing that takes most time is just shuffling the cards. Sounds silly, but the most quote-unquote challenging thing is actually shuffling the cards, so you start with a good shuffle to start. But beyond that, if you've organized in your box, the setup is actually, it's a lot, but it's like, okay, your first time you do it, yeah, it's a little challenging. Second time, but if you've organized it in your box appropriately, and it took me years to start organizing all of one person's players in one bag. And all, I used to have like if there were 4 players who each did a thing, I would split off the things as opposed to put them all in one. Yeah. And so the setup is not too bad. The teach is a different thing altogether for sure with regards to, and that's where it kind of gets into the heaviness of the game, because Robbie encapsulated it really well. 10 points. Once you hit 10 points, you've started that initiates that will be the last round. Just because you hit the 10 points does not mean you're going to win. I've had multiple games where somebody started it and other people had hidden cards in their hand. Mm-hmm. The teach can be a little challenging because there are multiple aspects of the game. One already referenced is you can play cards to put a worker down or other cards to move up an alliance with 4 different factions. And as you move up those alliances, you'll get points. And if you have, I forgot the official term, a final alliance with them, you can also get another point. So there's possibly 2 points per faction you can earn a point. There's combat at the end of every single round. There will be combat. You choose whether you want to be in there. Some of the worker placement spots, you can choose to do combat when you go there. And then some of the worker placement spots are getting you spice or getting you water. Spice being the most valuable resource, it becomes a big way to do things later on in the game. And then there's worker placement spots that give you money, solari essentially. So that's their worker placement spots. But the really fun thing for me in this game is your cards are multi-use cards. So your cards, we talked about being a worker placement game. Your cards will have symbols that basically tell you where you can place your worker. Every single place except, I think actually every single place is a single worker can go there. I don't think there's any spot on this board. I think some of the expansions, there are spaces where multiple people can go. But a constricting thing that's what some people get frustrated with is that in this game, there's one spot, like Lords of Waterdeep, there are spots that only one worker can go. So there are symbols that match symbols on the board that say, if I want to go here and no one's there, my card has to have this symbol. I play that card and I go there. After you've gone through and placed all your agents, now on your what we call the reveal turn, you reveal the rest of your cards, and they will show any potential. Forgot the term they use, persuasion, which are basically the money, not salary, but like a buying power.
Yeah, to buy more cards.
To buy more cards. Or if you've entered combat, you'll have cards that may have swords on them that increase your ability for your combat strength in that game. And so the challenge of the teach is there's a bunch of different things on the board. In many ways, Lords of Waterdeep is an easier teach because it's more black and white. I go here and I do this. I go here and I do this. Whereas this one, you have a card that lets you do two different things, and it's limited by where you do it. And some of the cards have a gray thing in the middle that when you play it, depending on how you play it, you get that bonus as well, right? An on-playability. And so the teach can be, you have to walk through the entire boards, and then you have to walk through multiple cards and talk about each of those things. And then it's still, there's so many spots, later on you're like, what does that one do again? And what does this do again? Because there's a lot of iconography. Easy to understand iconography, but it is quite a bit on the board and quite a bit going on.
Yeah. I would say what makes the teach overwhelming is that there are two major board game mechanics that make up Dune Imperium. And it is the deck building side of things, and there's the worker placement side of things. Anytime you have a worker placement game, it's always a little overwhelming for newer players because worker placement inherently means that there is a certain value to putting this like piece down. I'm going to take my turn and make this one worker spot. And as Jason mentioned, there is no duplicates out there. So, for instance, if I want to go get spice and I want to use my worker to go get spice, there may be only 3 spots that straight up give me spice. But of those 3 spots, maybe only one of them actually is free. Another one, I can get spice, but I have to pay water in order to get that spice. Or in order to put my worker down in that spot, I have to pay a certain salary, or I have to pay something in order to activate or put my worker in that spot. So my worker, like choosing where I want to go, is limited by the impact of it all. So it's a lot of decisions based off of that. But then you are looking at your hand and saying, which of these cards do I want to save? Maybe on reveal, this gives me 3 persuasion, and that allows me to go get this bigger card that I want to have in my deck. And so I start leaning towards the deck building side of things. Well, that's going to limit your worker placement options because you're just going to have less symbols you're working with in order to place those cards. And then there's other times where maybe you want to keep this for the reveal, but Jason goes to this spot, and now all of the ones that I was going to use this card to worker place with, all of those spots are taken. So I've got to pivot and adjust during my agent turn to make sure that I'm putting an agent out there. Or do I just want to say, it's just not worth doing that, and I want to go straight to reveal and go buy the card that I want to go buy? There is a ton of decisions, and I think on the teach, you could get lost in the trenches of going too deep into strategy on the teach, or you could get too lost in the trenches of trying to understand every facet of the strategy on the learn. Something we don't talk about too often, I think, Jason, is that there is like a skill to not only teaching the game, but also being able to just say, we just got to play. We just got to go and we got to do the thing. And I'm probably going to make the wrong call here, but let me go ahead and do that. Which is why I think that like, I almost want to like jump down to gameplay length as a part of this. A lot of our sections that we usually divide out are going to be pretty fluid through this because there's a lot of layers to it. But I think the gameplay length is very accurate. And you have a note in here talking about with analysis paralysis for our AP folks, that definitely is going to, like, it's going to rear its ugly head at times here. But there's also times where, like, you actually don't have that many decisions to make. So it can really hone you in. And I think I enjoy that aspect of things, that this is a game that I feel like very rarely are you just going to play once if you're a gamer and say, yeah, I'm okay never touching that game again. You're going to be itching to come back for it.
Yeah, for sure. And I what's funny is when it happens every time you and I talk, because you and I look at things differently, which is what makes, arrogantly, that's a good team, because we look at games in different ways. And this game, that as you kind of eloquently break it out, it starts limiting where you could even go. And I could argue that AP affects almost every game, so too often I fall into that trap. Because I play fast, so by default everybody has AP compared to me. I mean, and that's my own issue. I'm confessing my sins here in the confessional. That's my own issue I'm working on. But the nature of this game, the fun and frustrating thing is I really need spice. There's only one spot open because of other players, but I don't have a symbol on my card, so it now limits what I can do. So the constrictive nature of it limits the 2 or 3 spots you could even go. The AP comes in, well, should I go here? Should I go here? Should I go here? But the principle of it is in general, because this game plays best at 3 or 4. At 2-player, the board's so wide open, you're just kind of doing the resource gathering and having fun, and you're kind of learning the game in a 2-player game. But it plays best at 3 or 4 because it gets crunchier and those spots get tighter. Because in a 2-player game, the only difference is combat. Only one person wins the bonus of combat. No one else does in a 2-player game. But because it starts restricting where you can go, there's limited spots you can go, and it makes it easier. Which is also why at times Lords of Waterdeep can play really fast, because as the rounds go, you're like, well, there's only 3 spots, and okay, I guess I'll go here and I'll go here. We played a 6-player version of Lords of Waterdeep over the holidays, and I was like, wow, this game went way faster than I expected it to go, because you start with 2 people, and limiting spots where you can go will definitely clamp down on analysis paralysis. And so like I too often say that's a struggle in a game, but this game doesn't have that. Whereas Expeditions, pivoting back to a game I played lately, there's so many spots you can go in Expeditions, because even in a 3-player game, almost the entire board's open. So I have so many spots I can go. I'm overthinking everything. Friggin' 5 tribes. There's so many things I can do in 5 tribes. I'm thinking through every single possible thing, and I'm thinking through a second time, and then a third time. There's only so many spots you can go in games, and I love that about Dune Imperium. So I love seeing my hand. Okay, where can I go? What's going to be best for me? And let's go for there. And you're right. The gameplay is spot on. It will slow down a little bit at the end, because even though it's tight, you're trying to squeak out that point. Well, if I can push my luck here and try to get that alliance, and I know, well, Elizabeth just went to combat. Should I try to go to combat? We'll talk about here. One of the fun things about combat is every single round, the reward for combat is different, and it's randomized every time. So at the beginning of a round, you flip over a card that shows what the victor, the people who win the combat, what they're going to get. Sometimes it could be straight up a point. Later in the game, it could be 2 points. It could be just straight up Solari or Spice. It could be moving up an alliance track, right? So you know what combat is available at the end of that round, and you don't have to do combat. On the app, and I love the app of this game plays perfectly. Like, I've played this game in BG Stats, I have 9 plays, but on the app, I couldn't even tell you how many plays I've played, because I played Dune Imperium so much on the app, because I'll play each faction and see how I can try to win. I'll go into a game and be like, I never want to do combat. Let's see if I can win. I go into a game going, all I'm going to do is combat. Let's see if I can win, just for the fun of it. But you don't have to go in combat, but you can see what other people are doing, and you jump into combat later on yourself. If no one else goes later and you're the only one in there, by default, you win. Like, you don't have, in some games, there are some games that if no one's willing to fight you, you can't win anything. But if you're the only one who does combat, you're going to win whatever that is. It doesn't matter what it is. So that's a fun aspect of the gameplay of that, is knowing each round is different what the combat's going to be. And at the end of the round, that goes away and a new card gets flipped for what the combat will be.
Yeah. And I think what I really like in terms of, I'll kind of dive into this, because I think the combat does tie into the theme. So, if you're a fan of Dune, if you're a fan of the book and the movies, the reprint, I guess, of the game, or a lot of the art is updated currently to much more match the films.
Yeah, the game came out. It came out in coordination with the film, so it was intentional. When this game came out, it had the film art. The film characters in artistic renditions, but it was actually, they worked together behind the scenes to have them come out at similar times. So that's why it is Paul Atreides is Timothy, right? Tim Chalamet.
Yeah. So I think it definitely reflects that. It was funny. I don't normally do this, but I with the new job, I have some time to consume some content as well, and I'm listening while I'm doing certain tasks. And so I listened to a couple reviews today, and I thought it was interesting that a lot of people, it was shared across multiple reviews, that they really like the gameplay of it, but it doesn't feel, Dune Imperium feels like the least bloody Dune game that is out there in terms of the books and the lore of it all. I mean, they're fighting for the rights to control this planet, and they will kill and slaughter anything that gets in their way. Yeah. So it's very cutthroat. And when you think about that, you go to the combat here, and you're like, oh, combat takes place every turn. What are you talking about, Robbie? It's a bloody game.
Right.
But the combat is very, very straightforward. Yep. Like, you're going to have the opportunity to move troops in and out. Some spaces allow you to move, not only place a troop, but move extra troops from basically your barracks into the spot. And then other ones are that you're going to you get those swords that from the reveal. And then you also could have these like bonus cards that allow you to do things as well. So there's a couple surprise layers that come with the combat. But at the end of the day, it's a numbers game. I have 17, you have 14, I win combat.
Right.
Check. It's done. Yep. And then whatever was used, we lose it, and we go to the next round. So I like that realm, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But yeah, that's like the bloodiest side of it. So I heard it said, and like I said, multiple reviews, they were like, if you want the theme of Dune to be bloodshed, go play a different Dune game.
Yeah.
But if you want just a really good game that has the art and has the alliances, I think the alliances are really where the theming shines. Because if you work with the Bene Gesserit, they're these like future predictors using the voice, and the Bene Gesserit alliance gives you a benefit as you go through that allows you to forecast and see things, which is, I think, really cool.
Yeah. I think that you're spot on for sure. Like, and I'm not deep into the Dune book universe. I have it on Audible. I've yet to listen to it. That's one of my goals, is to eventually listen to an Audible. Of course, I've watched the movie many times, but it's only as bloody as you want it to be. And that's I'm not a guy who likes to take that in general. Yeah. And so what's fun about this, you choose to be in this. And so it's not personal. If you go into combat, you're acknowledging, hey, somebody may come in with this with special cards I wasn't ready for. They're going to slack me, right? And so I can't take it personal, even though that's King of Tokyo. The whole game is, okay, I'm eliminating everybody else. And I'm trying to survive the longest and eliminate everybody else. Yeah. Mistborn, one of the key elements, one of the ways you win Mistborn in the deck building game is by eliminating everybody else, right? You go into that knowing, hey, it could be a bloody game because people are coming after me. In Dune, no one can initiate combat with you. You're initiating the combat yourself, sometimes not even knowing who you're going to be fighting. Because if you go into combat first, then you may not fight anybody. You don't know who you're going to be fighting or what they're willing to do. That's another cool thing about this game, is that only certain worker placement spots on the board even allow you to do combat. It's just not a combat action. Your action is actually going to, like, I think all three places you can get spice, you can do combat, because it inherently makes sense, because that's where a lot of the combat happens, is actually on Dune or Arrakis, I guess. And there's a couple other spots too where you can thematically enter combat by going there. Talking about the alliances, being an alliance, there's a couple of worker place spots that if you have an alliance with a Fremen, you get more water, because that's the key thing with the Fremen, right? So it's relatively within there. You could, full disclosure, this game with the cool mechanisms could possibly be another theme, but it fits Dune's theme really well. It's not a pasted on theme here. Totally. So many of the things make sense at a level within that world. Hardcore Dune people may not think that, but at least folks who understand the general concept or who've watched the movie, which, from what I know, the movie follows the book pretty well. The first one and the second movie relatively well, and the game follows that as well.
Yeah, and I was hopefully not coming across.
No.
Anyone is. I think that I really do. I agree with Jason in terms of like the alliances. It really shines. Like I said, a lot of the worker, when you can have combat, it's because you've acquired spice, and spice comes at a price. It rhymes, unintentional. So you have that. Or if you're working with like the High Alliance, who is not on the desert planet doing those things, and you're going and you're getting Solari and moving coin around, usually those spaces don't have combat in them.
Right.
Why? Because they aren't even on the planet. They aren't
Right.
worried about those resources up there. They just want your money. So it is, I think those actions are done really well, which is really cool. Yeah. So in terms of strategy, one thing that I really like in the strategy is that because there's these two sides, there's deck building and there's worker placement. You can't go all in on one because they have to work hand in hand in order for you to succeed in the game. You could have like a really well built deck that works around a certain piece. So there's a signet ring. Every individual is given a faction leader, which is something we haven't talked about yet. You're given these faction leaders that have a unique power. And when you draw your signet ring, it allows you to activate your leader's power. So I could have something where, like when we played, I built a deck that basically allowed me to recycle to my signet ring pretty comfortably to get water, which was my leader's ability. It was when it played, I got some water. I was like, all right, that's pretty cool. But I just didn't play the spice game well. And so I felt starved for that resource the entire time. So I tried to go deep in water, which fueled my warriors, and I tried to go deep in combat. But then I was just giving up points elsewhere because I wasn't playing the worker placement side of things well. I just built this deck that kind of cycled itself and did the thing. And then when the board got starved later, I didn't have the cards that allowed me to do the worker placement side as well. And I think I truly feel like in our game, I just lost steam. I felt like I was doing the right thing, and then everyone else's engines turned on because they were doing both. And I just ran out of gas and limped over the finish line. But yeah, so I think that aspect of it works really well. And it's hard until you play the game. It's very hard to understand how you could be brought into both of those. It's also interesting, Jason, because we played Agricola the same week that we played this one. And Agricola makes you do everything.
Right.
Or else you lose points. What was fascinating here is I don't think you have to do everything. It's just a little harder if you don't.
Yeah, you're right on there, and I know this more from playing the app than from playing real time. Even though I played it 9 times, I've tried them all, and I've won every way. I've won focus on just alliances. Trying to get, because you can get up to 2 points per faction, and if you get all those, well, that's 8 of your 10 points. If you can squeeze out 2 more points, okay, we'll just focus on the tracks. Focus on moving things up tracks. I played with Elizabeth enough now. I know in general Elizabeth likes to get money to buy more cards, and she likes to go the tracks, right? I like to try combat. I like to go heavy in spice and use that spice to go big with combat or big or something else. But there's games where, like, if other people are going spice, well, I can't go spice. You can't totally ignore some things, but you can try to go. It's not a forcing function to do everything, right? You can build a really lean deck that deck does exactly what you need it to do. Or you can build a wide-ranging deck that lets you just do a bunch of different things, right? And that is the key. There are so many different things in this game. If you just want to, my term, play cards that do stuff, these cards do 2 different things and some 3 things, and the variety is across the board, right? I love the fact that you have so many things you can do. The disc golf game we've talked about put together, the cards to me are inspired by Clay this because I want our cards to be multi-use. Either one part of the card lets you do this, or the bottom lets you do this. I love those options, and I love the freedom and also restrictions it gives you. It gives a bit of both. Like, there's some freedom to have wide openness, but there's only certain things you can do with it, so you got to kind of think about how you play it.
Yeah. And so I think when you bring in the replayability, that is something that makes the strategy really exciting as well. Because as Jason talked about, like, if I'm someone that traditionally likes to walk in and go tracks, and I like to go with the alliances and lean towards that, but I'm going fourth, and the first 2 people start making some moves that I realize, like, oh no, everyone else is also thinking there's 8 points up for grabs right there, 4 points really up for grabs. I'm gonna go those routes. It's like, okay, I'm gonna do the math and realize I've got to pivot and adjust to somewhere else. But even when you go to combat, So I walked in knowing, because I am a, if I can brush shoulders with someone else in the game and I can take stuff from you, I will do it happily. So I walked in thinking, okay, this makes sense. And we had randomly been given our leaders. So mine just had water, and I connected the dots really fast that, okay, that's going to be a nice little combat engine that I have going. I'm going to lean into this. And as I looked at the combats, it's the combat goal or the combat prize changes every single round. And so I went heavy in combat early, realized I had to pivot. But if I had said, hey, I'm going to go in combat and just flipped it, I'd probably walk away dominating that game, because at the end of the game, there was a ton of points that kept coming up in our prize goals for winning combat. That's how Dakota ended up really storming all the way up, is he kept winning combat near the end. And that was points. And that was points that he was getting. So I think that's a really fascinating aspect of it, is all of the different levers that make the replayability so high. Because the field of cards that you're going to buy, that's going to be different as the cards come out. The drawing that you have in your deck, the first 10 cards are the same, but how you draw them massively. We have 10 cards. How I draw, how Jason draws, how Elizabeth draws, how someone else draws. We can have different starting turns simply because of those things. Like the variance on that side is super high. And I think it could make it really addicting to, you could legitimately have the same strategy, just crush one game and get nothing the next because of how the cards come out, how the board plays out. I think that is really intriguing.
Yeah. And it's a lot of the heavier games may not always have such wide replayability, but because you have 8 different leaders, the 8 leaders that you start with who each have a different unique ability. Some have really basic ones, some have really complex ones, some are limiting, but you're trying to work through that. The fact you have 8 different leaders, as you described, different cards come out, different player counts dictate how you're going to go, different playing styles dictate how you're going to go, what those people are doing dictate how you're going to go. So each game can be very different. And playing it a ton on the app, I've seen that for sure. So I've seen I want to really do this and lost games because I kept wanting to do this, but the other player was doing that as well. So, or the computer or the AI was doing that. So for a long, complex game that has a lot of things in there, the replayability is high, without doubt. A couple other things I want to highlight about the gameplay just kind of hit me. It is a worker placement game, deck building, but there is some aspects of luck. And talking about the same way, I went and read some reviews, and some people, we need to highlight this as well. So we've referenced before, there's these cards called intrigue cards. And intrigue cards are just basically a card you can get during the game, you can play during your turn that just does stuff. Sometimes it's just move up on an alliance track. Sometimes it's, hey, just take 2 water. Often it is additional combat strength. And so the way combat works is once we get to finalized combat, we go in turn play order. Hey, do you want to play any intrigue cards? And you want to play any intrigue cards. And you can keep playing until everyone is passed. So it's a very unique thing, is that I could play a card, Robbie could pass, but then Elizabeth could play a card, I could pass, but now Robbie could play a card. So you keep going until everyone passes in combat. And you may think, I have this combat 1, and then Robbie busts out a card that gives him 6 strength or gives him 4 different fighting strength. I'm not saying that as a negative thing, but there is a little luck in there. Any game in which you're drawing cards, that's the nature of the game. Any game in which you're drawing cards is going to be luck. There's even luck in how it comes out for what you want to buy from the row of cards, right? So the intrigue cards could be that way. There are some intrigue cards that you play after the game, after you finish the last round, that may give you 2 different points. Hey, if you've met these conditions, you've been holding on this thing that gives you 1 or 2 points, that could actually take the game away. One game, though, I think the first time we played Christopher many years ago, he smoked us. Christopher, because to start the last round, somebody hits 10. I think Christopher ended up scoring 15 points. The track doesn't even go to 15, but he literally hit such a perfect game of all these extra points in there, which is very rare. Typically, you may get to 11, 12, or 13 to pull it off, but I think his was 14 or 15, right? Because he had these things that turned out perfectly. And you may think, I have the win in, but they take it. To me, that's exciting. It's tough, but that's the exciting thing for that other person who just pulled out that win, thinking, everybody thinks we're going to lose, and this guy's got it. Boom. I just came out of nowhere. Because I was able to do this. It's fun. So there is some basic luck. It's going to vary from game to game. If you go heavy into intrigue, there's a chance you're going to get a bunch of those things, but if you go ahead and intrigue, you're ignoring other stuff that may affect you as well. But I wanted to make sure we knew there is some luckish with the intrigue cards that come out and give you stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, and that's I feel like, as Jason and I are both the people that can do this during a game, is we keep a pretty good awareness of the board state and what's happening. And so it is not uncommon, I feel like, for either of us to be like, okay, so Elizabeth's just going to win. Like, awesome. I'm going to make this and try to make a storm or try to do that, but Elizabeth's just going to win. And I do think the intrigue cards are fun because sometimes we'll be pushed to a point that we'll actually say that out loud. And then Dakota's over there and he's like just chuckling internally of, I've got 4 points in my hand that people are just not respecting. Okay, you're right. So I do think that's a fun aspect of it. And it honestly, it takes me back to a Catan type deal where the intrigue cards, sometimes you can just get a victory point out of a development card.
Right.
And then other times it's like, I already have 7 knights. I don't need another knight. And so that's where people can probably feel the frustration of the intrigue cards. And yeah, like Jason said, anytime you're dealing with a deck of surprise cards, sometimes you're just going to get one that just doesn't work for you. And that's fine. It's the most lottery-esque. So, like, I personally get really frustrated by those mechanics because that Catan experience has been way too common for me. I have the largest army, and it seems as if other people don't even have an army, so I don't need more knights to continue to build a large army. I just need a victory point, or give me like Monopoly. Give me something to go take all the stuff from people. Right. And so when we played, I was like, I will take intrigue cards if I happen across them, but I'm not going to go look for them. Yeah. And other players at the table were like, yeah, I'm definitely going to pick up an intrigue card here. I'm definitely going to pick up an intrigue card here. And so I think that to me, if you want to play the slots, it's not, I would say that they pretty much always have a benefit depending on when you get them during the game. Like, because you could get a combat intrigue card and eventually you're going to find yourself in combat. Like, I would say, even if I ignore combat, there's just going to be some times where I just have some troops end up there. And who knows? Maybe the right intrigue card just like happens to win you a combat, and maybe it grabs you a point that you just weren't ready for. So that's fine with me. I could see where people would say the luck side of that. But I think, when you're dealing with cards and decks in general, like, unlucky that I drew like 4 of my, if I'm late in the game and I'm shuffling my deck on the redraw and I draw 4 of my starting cards, it's like,
that happened.
Like some really good cards, but
Elizabeth and I played Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle Earth, which is basically Seven Wonders Duel, but a little bit different. And I was dominating this game. The roles were reversed, and she wasn't pouting, but she was. If you watch this game, you're like, one person is dominating the entire game. And I almost said halfway through, Elizabeth, you remember the last 2 times someone was acting the way you are, they won the game, talking about me. And sure enough, the perfect card came out at the right time. This got revealed. The Seven Wonders Duel is like, some cards are face up, some are face down. You're drafting them from in front of you. And I was forced to take a card that revealed a card that was an instant win condition for Elizabeth. It's just the way it was. Like, literally, and so, like, we both of us, like, oh, I'm going to win this game all the way. And then the luckiness of that. And I told her, like, I'm not even mad, because how exciting is it for that person who the entire game was on their back foot and one step behind, but because they did one strategy and shot the moon and they made it there, right? So I'm okay with that for sure. Some people may not be, but I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Production, I think the production side of it is really, really good. I think, like Jason said, I am sure there is huge upgrade potential. And I'm even seeing in the show notes, because Jason's a rock star and has it there. There is massive upgrade potential, but he's saying that the upgrade bits cost as much, very a la Quacks.
Yeah. But to us, Quacks is almost an essential. Like I hate to say that, but if you play Quacks a lot with the cardboard tokens, they're gonna get worn out. It's tough. The new version of Quacks, I think they all come with it, or so I can't remember that. But like
now,
so like Quacks is an essential upgrade for sure. This one is not. It's just fun because you have minis for your agents, your workers. You have little bitty minis for your soldiers. You have these fun things. So I bought that. That's what even is this box here, because this box is not the normal box, because it's like twice as thick, because like one whole half of the box is just minis. But the base game is a bunch of wood that works perfectly for it. The art we already referenced is essentially like stills from the movie. Not all of it. The cards are not a lot of stills, but some of the other stuff is clearly those things. Yeah. But like Duncan Idaho's in there and Gunny's in there, and it is like Josh Brolin. Artistic rendition, but from the movie, but it's done in a good way. Another, too often I forget when we talk about production is also the design of the rule book. And even when we talk about this, I forget that production is a key part of that. But for a very, very complex game, the rule book is very black and white and straightforward. Like there's rarely, if ever, a time I'm like, I don't really know what that means, and the rule book doesn't help me out. It has some, as with any game, there's some like FAQs that come out later to clarify some stuff, but the rule book itself is really good in how to play the game. And then if you go get the FAQ, because I even print up the FAQ, so I have it in my box to clarify those things. But it's definitely top notch. I put a little show note in here to say I have to highlight that we have to talk about a game called Dune Imperium Uprising. Okay. It's listed as a standalone sequel, but it's the same game with a little bit of different gameplay, and it's integrated some of the expansion stuff. I don't have the details of that because I don't have Dune Imperium Uprising. What I've heard reviewers say is that if you can get Dune Imperium Uprising for basically the same price as Dune Imperium, get Uprising. I've never played Uprising, so we haven't played that, so I can't talk about that. But they say if you can get Dune Imperium for a good deal, get Dune Imperium, because you're still getting the basis of the game. I think in the Dune Imperium Uprising, there's like there's spies you can do to go spy on other people and look at their cards or something, which is definitely more thematic and some other things. But we couldn't, because if you start looking for Dune Imperium, you're going to see this thing called Dune Imperium Uprising, and I wanted you guys to have an awareness of it. And what board game reviewers will tell you that if they're both games are the same price, they would get the Dune Imperium Uprising, because it's 99.5% of this gameplay with some other stuff that actually makes the game a little better, right? And it's like basically Dune version 2. They don't call it that because they actually still make both games. They haven't stopped making Dune Imperium, which is weird. And Dune Imperium Uprising, I think, is number 7 on PGG, which is wild and drives Tom Vassell crazy, and I agree with him, because Agricola and Agricola 2nd Edition are both in the top 100 as well, which is definitely frustrating. So, but if you go look for games, and right now, in general, Dune Imperium is $60. It's $52 on Amazon right now, but it's $60 right now. Or it's the general MSRP, I think, is $60. If you ever see Dune Imperium Uprising for similar costs, I would even say get it. I'm not going to upgrade to Uprising because I have this game, and I don't have a need to. If somebody ever gave it to me for Christmas or birthday, I wouldn't say no, and I'd just give my Dune Imperium away. But if you go look for games, just don't be surprised if you see that. Same game, if you can get a similar cost, even I would recommend going for the other one.
Yeah. Well, Jason, anything else we want to add, or we want to dive into cookies?
No, we can dive into cookies. I want to hear yours first.
Yeah.
Mine, well, you would know. I mean, you're not going to be surprised by mine. No one else is. But I want to hear yours.
Yeah, I think this is going to be the first time we've been here for a while that we've had one of these. But it's a double doozy for me because here's the deal. And I'm not a worker placement guy. Like I do not get stoked about it. It's not that I'm anti-worker placement. I just don't get super stoked about worker placements, but I'm a sucker for a deck builder. I love a deck builder. I think it's so fun allocating resources, seeing what comes off the top for, can I have the huge turn and have this like, whoa, I can't believe that I actually got all 5 of these cards at the same time. I think that is really, really cool. So I think that aspect of things is really great. I like everything being worked in. When we were playing, I was saying like Lisa Nagarib the whole time.
Yeah.
I liked the theming of it, and so yeah, I've played other Dune games that are basically just Risk Dune edition, and you're just like duking it out the whole time, and it's fine. I think that is its own genre of game. It's hard to think about a game that has taken two big hitters of a board game mechanism and made them so intertwined.
Yeah.
But I still get the feeling of both. Like I just keep coming back to this during this episode because I think it does it so well. I have to be a good deck builder, and I also have to make smart decisions on where I'm going. Because going for spice and spending that extra water could be what locks you out of getting your spice to unlock this huge turn for you. Because if I do that early, then all of a sudden your first agent turn has to be like scrambling to go somewhere else. Those kind of decisions are super fun if you love a crunchy game. So yeah, I'm here for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everything you said is spot on. I mean, I'm a double doozy for sure. Worker placement is my number one, hands down, but super close second is deck building, and drafting, card drafting is third, right? So you don't draft in this game. There's open drafting because you're buying cards, but it's not quite the same. That deck builder by default does that. But to take two massive mechanisms in the board game world and meld them into such a not a cooperative game, but them cooperate with each other and work so symbiotically with each other in the game. You just can't. It's hard. There's probably other games that do it as well, but this is the one that's for me that I love. Multi-use cards that do stuff, deck building, worker placement, resource management. We didn't really talk about it, but resource management is like the biggest key element of the game because you have to get money. You have to get Solari to go some worker placements. You have to get spice. You can't ignore spice in the game because you're going to need spice to get money, to go do stuff. You need water to actually go to certain spots. That's what you use a lot of your water for. So it's still a resource management game. And the resources, though, are still tight. It's just not like an open, there's not tons of resources everywhere. So you're also managing resources at the same time. So I love all those things put together. And to me, a very fulfilling game because at the end of the game, you will have done a lot. Yeah. And I haven't played a game of this yet where somebody wasn't at least at 7 or 8 points when someone wins by 10. I haven't seen someone win with 10 and someone have 4 or 5. Now, if you have a brand new gamer who doesn't understand gaming, they may do that. But every game we've ever played, I think the lowest score is maybe 7 or 8 when someone got 10, which sounds like a blowout game, but it's one person who's able to get a couple more points when it mattered. And so it's not you're getting you in those games knowing I did a bunch of stuff and hopefully you had fun doing those things.
Yeah, I would say if you're bringing a brand new gamer to this, and this is like one of their first games out the gate, you might be a bad person.
Yeah, this is true.
Like that's a questionable decision. Go play River Valley Glassworks. Go play. There's just go play Catan. Like just go. I think you'd have a better time with you pushing through a game of Catan or Ticket to Ride than trying to work through them with this. So I think another replayability, we didn't spend too much time on it, but is just even the leader factions. I think that's so fun. If I were like playing this on the app, I truly would track how many wins do I have per leader.
Yeah.
And I would be all about those statistics of, when I'm playing with so-and-so, he's statistically my best leader when it comes to things. I think that is really, really fun kind of mechanics. So, Jason, final thoughts as we wrap up this episode. We're about an hour and 8 minutes. So,
Well, I hope folks enjoyed listening to it. Hopefully we clarified or talked. I think we talked pretty clearly about it. I think each of our points, I believe, are easy to understand abstractly without looking at anything, right? Just hearing two dudes talk about the game. Hopefully we talked enough about specific mechanisms that it would make sense that if you pulled the game out and played with somebody, you would have some familiarity. I think our conversation was good in highlighting those things and how they, affect the overall game. And I don't get Dune Imperium played a lot. It's not on BGA. And so if it is, I need to go find it. I just started playing Zolkin, so that's very exciting to have Zolkin on BGA. I mean, Zolkin's been there for a while, but I've been playing Zolkin on BGA. I love Dune Imperium, and I hope if you want to jump into a heavy game, if you like worker placement, it's great. If you like deck building, it's great. It's the perfect blend of the two.
Yeah, dude, I'm here for it. So, guys, thank you so much for listening, and we hope you guys have an amazing rest of your week, and we will see you in a couple weeks for episode 54.